Welcome to the deep dive. We are in that really unique time of year, that beautiful, slightly strange period between the Christmas leftovers and all the New Year's anticipation.
Yeah, the world just sort of slows down for a few days. It's this brief cultural pause.
And it means we all naturally enter this reflective mode, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about the year that's ending and the one that's about to start.
And that internal pause, it creates a huge opportunity. Suddenly, everyone's talking about self-improvement, goal setting.
And, how to finally make 2026 the year.
Exactly. But as we looked at the source material for this, and it's a really rich, detailed analysis from leading thinkers on performance and goal design, we found something, well, pretty startling.
Startling is definitely the right word. We looked at the statistics on New Year's resolutions, and they're brutal.
Brutal how?
So get this, we learned that 23% of people quit their resolution by the end of the first week of January.
The first week, wow.
Yeah, that's almost 1 in 4 people gone before the holiday decorations are even put away.
And it gets worse. By the end of January, roughly half are done. I mean, if you can push through past Groundhog Day, you are already in the minority.
And the final number.
Only about 9% succeed for the entire year. 9.
So the critical question for you listening right now is why? Why do we keep engaging in this ritual year after year if the failure rate is so overwhelmingly high?
Well, the research suggests that this specific time, this downtime we're in right now, it really does matter. It's not magic or anything.
No, it's just that the social demands and the pace of life have momentarily stopped. It gives you the mental space you need for structured thinking.
And our mission today is to leverage that exact state you're in. We want to cut through all the information overload, the 20 different frameworks, the endless lists of habit.
And just get to what actually works.
Exactly. To extract the few highly leveraged principles and some uncomfortable questions that can genuinely shift the odds for you. We want to move you from just wishing for success to actually designing a year where success is almost unavoidable.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with a new way to think about goal setting, a new calculus. What's the single best question to frame the whole year?
It's surprisingly simple, and it immediately helps you prioritize. The question is this: what would have to happen by the end of 2026 for me to look back and consider it a success?
And what's so fascinating, as the authors point out, is that when people answer that honestly, the list, it rarely has more than 3 things on it.
Right. It's never 20 goals. It's usually something like paying off a specific debt, hitting a key relationship milestone, or, finally launching that one side project.
If those few things happen, the year is a success, regardless of any smaller failures.
And that immediately connects to the most important rule for achieving those things, the subtraction rule.
Subtraction rule, okay.
You cannot, under any circumstances, assume your capacity will just expand to fit in these new goals.
That's the planning fallacy in action, right? When we're motivated, we think, oh, next year I'll magically have more time or energy.
Fewer duties. But the safer, more realistic assumption is I can do no more than I am doing right now.
So you have to think of it like a fixed capacity buffer. Every single new goal, more running, more gym time, learning guitar, that's an addition.
And if your plate is already full, where are you going to put it? You have to actively decide to put something down before you can pick something new up.
So we need to be really specific with that subtraction. It's not just cut bad habits. It's about the low-grade filler, isn't it?
Totally. Are you subtracting that half hour of scrolling Instagram, the 20 minutes you spend just deciding what to watch on Netflix?
Or what about cutting administrative tasks you could automate? Or reducing your commute by asking for just 1 remote day a week?
That is a huge shift. We always want to add motivation, but the authors are clear. Goals fueled purely by motivation are fragile.
Because motivation is an uncontrollable fuel source.
It comes and then it goes. The design of the goal needs to be more rigid. It has to account for finite time and energy, which means subtraction is absolutely non-negotiable.
But I wonder, doesn't focusing so much on subtraction feel a little, demoralizing? Shouldn't we be harnessing that positive energy of a fresh start?
That's a great point, but the sources actually address that. They argue that the demoralizing part isn't the realism, it's the failure.
Okay, so it's more energizing to succeed at 2 things you actually made room for.
Than to fail at 10 things you just piled onto a full plate. Subtraction isn't failure, it's a strategic move to guarantee success.
Which brings us to part 2, the uncomfortable self-audit. Before we can design success, we have to confront where we are right now.
Especially the parts of our lives we're currently ignoring.
And the first question they suggest is brutal, but it's incredibly clarifying.
It really is. It asks, how would I spend my day if I wanted to make 85-year-old me as miserable as possible?
Wow, that's powerful. Did the research give any examples of what that crossover usually looks like?
It's almost always chronic deferral. The shocking thing is that your current habits, the constant distraction, avoiding your finances, neglecting relationships.
Those are often the exact things that will cause future misery.
Yeah. The Venn diagram of what I do daily and what will cause regret is often overlapping. A lot. We're already laying the groundwork for our future misery.
And that avoidance, that's a perfect lead-in to the movie test.
Right, the movie test. This is designed to overcome that gap between what you know is true and how you're actually behaving.
So how does it work?
Imagine your life is a movie. The audience is watching. They see everything you're ignoring. What would they be screaming at the screen for you to do?
The examples from the sources are jarring because they're so obvious. Things we suppress. They might be screaming, leave that relationship, or that job is slowly killing you.
When the really painful one, stop drinking. The quiet voice inside you knows the truth, but the movie test makes it external. It makes it loud and unavoidable.
And that's why an unstructured resolution is so weak, but a structured annual review is so important.
Exactly. You need a formal framework. One that forces you to detail what went well, what went badly, lessons learned.
And even list specific memories, right? Like your favorite day or a quote that stuck with you.
Yeah, that comprehensive look at the texture of the year, not just the outputs, is essential before you even start planning.
And because if you skip that self-audit, you run the massive risk of climbing the wrong ladder. And that's the core of part 3.
Right. You could spend 10 years striving only to get to the top and realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time.
And that mistake is often driven by what the sources call the deferred life hypothesis.
That's the core human tendency to believe our current life is just, a practice run, a prelude, and that the real thing hasn't started yet.
We're always waiting for life's problems to get out of the way. Once the kids are older, once the house is paid off.
Once I hit this salary target, then I'll start living.
But the key insight here is just brutal realism.
It is. Problems aren't a bug of life. They're a feature. They're guaranteed to be there until the day you die.
So if you're waiting for a problem-free existence to start living, you might be putting your life on hold permanently.
You're substituting anxiety and striving for actual presence. And that drives the trap of chasing external success to fix internal issues.
This is where that really powerful quote comes in. You don't fix internal voids with external accolades.
And this is called the unteachable lesson. Because people who haven't achieved material success, fame, money, whatever, they believe it will solve their self-worth problem.
They think the anxiety will just vanish.
Right, and the paradox is, only the people who've actually achieved it can tell you that, no, the internal feeling of lack is still there. Sometimes it's even louder, because now you know the chase was pointless.
In fact, the research suggests it's actually easier to achieve our material desires, like buying a luxury car,
than it is to renounce the desire for them. We chase the thing because we think it'll change us on the inside. Only getting it can prove that belief wrong.
And we chase them because they're observable metrics, things the world can see and validate.
Exactly. Salary, job title, the size of your house. We're constantly trading away our hidden metrics. Peace of mind, time with family, our health for things people can easily measure.
The classic scientifically backed example of this is trading a longer commute for a higher salary.
Oh yeah. We know for a fact that long commutes reliably make people miserable. Yet we sacrifice that hidden metric, happiness, for the observable metric, money.
We're making ourselves measurably less happy just to chase a number on a spreadsheet.
And the absurdity of all this is summed up perfectly in the parable of the Mexican fisherman.
Can you walk us through that one?
A wealthy American businessman meets a fisherman who is just enjoying the afternoon with his family after catching a few fish. The businessman tells him to maximize his output, build a fleet, create a factory.
Sell it all in 10 years and retire a millionaire.
Right. And then he says you can retire, fish a little in the morning, and spend the afternoon with your family.
Which is the exact life he already had.
The exact life. The journey became necessary just to prove that the simple life he left behind was the right one all along.
So if the ultimate goals are often present and hidden, what are the daily habits we're sacrificing to chase that wrong ladder? This brings us to part 4, high ROI habits.
Okay, but before we list them, we have to establish the foundational domino. The first piece.
And that's sleep.
It's sleep. Sleep is the pebble at the top of the avalanche. The sources are unequivocal on this. Being smart or motivated is completely pointless if your core state is poor because of bad sleep.
You're trying to fix domino number 9, like your anxiety or your diet, when the real problem is domino number 1, your rest.
Absolutely. Once that's solid, we can look at 3 high ROI habits. Low effort, huge return. First, no phone in the bedroom.
This has to be a requirement, not an option. Why? Because if you use your phone as an alarm, the first thing you do is scroll.
And you start your day reactively, immediately checking notifications, letting the world happen to you.
Instead of you happening to the world, get a radio alarm clock. Charge your phone outside the room.
Second, no caffeine for 90 minutes after waking up.
Okay, this one is tough for a lot of people. What's the science?
When you wake up, your body releases cortisol, a natural alertness chemical. If you immediately flood your system with caffeine, you blunt that natural curve. By waiting 90 minutes, you let that process run its course.
Which pushes back that afternoon slump.
Exactly, gives you more sustained energy.
And the third habit.
A 10-minute postprandial walk after every meal.
Postprandial. Sounds complicated.
It just means a short walk after eating. This low-effort habit helps regulate your glucose and aids digestion. It smooths out those blood sugar spikes that cause the post-lunch energy crash.
Now, when you're trying to build these new habits, what's the single best rule for consistency?
The research highlighted one: never miss 2 days in a row.
That's key. It overcomes that all or nothing thinking.
Right. 1 missed gym day is just an error. 2 missed days is the start of a new negative habit. It gives you a strategy for getting back on the horse because you will fall off.
Let's move into productivity. We have to talk about that debilitating feeling of always being behind. The sources call it productivity dysmorphia.
Yeah, this is the psychological term for the inability to see your own success or output. It leads to this perpetual feeling of productivity debt.
The voice in your head that says, I haven't done enough.
Exactly. Even if you crush the day, you only feel like you got back to zero. You never actually win. The application here is to accept that you are probably already working hard enough. The problem isn't effort, it's structure.
And when it comes to actual procrastination, what are the causes?
It usually falls into one of 2 buckets. First, an action issue. You don't know the very next physical action. The task feels huge, so you stall.
And the fix is to make the first step embarrassingly small.
Yes, like just buying a notepad or unplugging the vacuum cleaner. We avoid it because it reveals how small our starting point really is.
And the second bucket
is a skill issue. You know what to do, but not how. The fix here is external. Google it, ask a friend, use an AI tool. The inertia is often just a fear of trying and failing, or even trying and succeeding.
And as you start making these big changes, quitting drinking, starting a business, you have to anticipate the pain that comes with it.
You have to anticipate the lonely chapter.
Explain that. The lonely chapter.
It's that period when you're too developed, too focused to resonate with your old friends anymore, but you haven't built your new support system yet.
You're in a kind of no man's land.
And that discomfort, that self-doubt, it's not a bug signaling failure. It's a predictable, temporary feature of the journey.
And it takes so much energy to get through it because your environment wants you to go back to how you were.
Tremendous energy. Differentiation is survival. Your environment wants you to be typical, to regress to the mean. Staying atypical requires you to constantly resist that comfortable equilibrium.
Okay, what if your goal is designing a relationship? The advice here was really pointed.
It was. Focus first on what your ideal partner would want, not just what you want.
Meaning, work on yourself. Go to the gym, update your wardrobe, get your career in order.
Yes, but the single most important trait to look for in a partner is psychological stability. How fast do they return to their emotional baseline after a disturbance? You want a relationship that feels like a safe harbor, not a storm.
Now, for the type of listeners, the insecure overachievers, the advice was almost the opposite of what you'd expect.
It was. If your fuel source is toxic, if you hustle because of self-hatred or needing validation, you don't need to hustle harder.
You need a parasympathetic Goggins.
Exactly. You need to be taught to switch off and relax with the same discipline you apply to working. You need to earn your rest. Know that when you nail your day, you've earned a +10, not just a return to 0.
So finally, when the authors were asked what single component of human joy must be preserved at all costs, what was the answer?
Agency. The belief that you have the ability to impact your surroundings.
The opposite being that feeling of helplessness, of being at the mercy of the world.
Right. Preserving that feeling that you happen to life rather than life happening to you is everything. Your goals have to protect that.
So as you sit here in this reflective space, the takeaway is use the structured questions and ruthlessly apply that subtraction rule to guard your time.
But here's the final thought we want to leave you with. We are so often crippled by what the sources call the shame of small fears.
The shame of small fears.
Yeah. Our nervous system evolved to fight bears, but now it's been repurposed to fight boundaries like sending a scary email or asking for a raise.
And that fear, that anxiety, that repetitive negative thought pattern that has plagued you this year, it's consuming your present moment over things that probably won't matter in 3 months.
The suffering you're feeling today is largely over the avoidance of a small necessary action.
So the most disruptive shift you can make is to accept the discomfort of present-day change, the lonely chapter, the embarrassing first steps, to prevent future self-betrayal.
Your 85-year-old self will forgive you for the business that failed or the investment that didn't work out.
But they will not forgive the internal repetitive thoughts you failed to address today, the necessary conversations you never had, the agency you allowed to slip away. We hope this deep dive helps you design a successful year.